Farmer protests and rallies are happening and accelerating across the world. It's not just turmoil in the United States where farmer hardships are skyrocketing. And today we're going to travel around the world to show you how farmers are under attack. Then we're going to come back here locally to discuss what's happening here in the US and see if there's a common pattern. Ultimately ending this video talking about the US's #1 beef supplier, Tyson's most recent round of layoffs and how abolishing property taxes could fix this entire mess for farmers. I'm not even talking about housing. This is why the Constitution of the United States of America is so important. We have laws right now that are supposed to protect us all. Y'all, this stuff is absolutely bonkers. Starting with Belgium.
Europe's farmers, the anger is boiling over. This was supposed to be a day of demonstration in the middle of Brussels to say that agriculture is facing intolerable burdens, but it descended into conflict. The police finding themselves under attack again and again. Even those farmers who simply saw the violence unfold said they could understand its causes.
I'm angry, but not violent. Some farmers are getting violent, but I can understand in the basis that makes them so angry. Over the years, we've had many discussions with the politicians and the parliament, and time and time over, they've told us, we've heard you, we're gonna make things change. Many of us are really starting to feel desperate.
Now, Paris, France.
There's currently no way in and no way out of Paris. The city is surrounded by hundreds of tractors. Angry farmers are staging the demonstration, demanding government help as they battle strict environmental regulations, red tape and low pay. The aim of the protest is to disrupt food supplies from entering the famous city.
And now, Westminster. Here's the Irish protests. And now Newcastle, and this man breaks this down pretty well.
Industrial estate, just on the outskirts of Newcastle, ready to go in with probably around 100 tractors we've got here. It's a demonstration on the inheritance tax. We got this inheritance tax put on us last budget, comes in April. It's just totally unsustainable. It's destabilised agriculture, it's destabilised food production. It's a tax that just is not affordable from farming profits. We've been telling the government for 12 months. We've done quite a lot of protests. We did a few in London, and there's been one and more up here a few months ago, and then we're back again today, and we're hoping that the government sees a bit of sense, listens to us, understands us, and makes farming better rather than destroying it. It's just noise. We've just got to keep the pressure on. We're basically going to have to be a thorn in the side of the government.
Mitch, do you agree with what he said? Should those people keep the pressure on the government? Is that the solution?
There's a couple of solutions here, but isn't it interesting what a tractor with a PTO drive can do when driven by a very upset farmer? Now, here in the US, multiply that by 3.4 million farmers that also have such equipment. And multiply that by 331 million people that depend on the product that those farmers produce. As I said previously, the idea here is to stop the War of 1776 from reoccurring. But that takes the truth. And in order for these farmers to do what is necessary, one must articulate what the problems are. Equity stripping is a problem. With regard to the farmers, the mergers and acquisitions that occurred between the seed companies and the fertilizer companies have stopped, literally in its tracks, competition. The knee-jerk reaction, which is another problem of the governments, is the trend towards socialism. This is the fault of those politicians. The property taxes are the fourth problem. Those who are creating these problems are the problem. They need to be exposed and shown the door. There's your 5 elements of problems. Now it's articulated. We know what it is. We've proven with regard to the property taxes what it is. So the idea of what are the solutions? Well, we've stated with regard to the property taxes, with regard to this problem as well, one of those problems or one of those solutions is political. The other one is legal. And that takes activism on behalf of A, the farmers in their particular category, B, all property owners across the United States, and frankly, all tenants and all residents across the United States. All hands on deck. This is why we've been jumping up and down about this issue. These things are all connected at the hip. So one must say, okay, fine, we get the idea. The other one is political's not enough. Legal has to be brought to bear. Legal means suing these people, joint and severally liable. That also means going after those who want to hide behind ultra-virus and going after those who are claiming we have sovereign immunity, you can't touch us. By the way, these problems with these farmers are not an American issue. It's an American issue. It's seen here on our shores. Britain, Canada, Europe, Netherlands, Australia. This is a global problem because there's only a handful of seed companies left. They've destroyed each other because the government's let them do it. They've eliminated competition between these companies. And now these companies that are in control, the seed companies and the fertilizer companies, literally look at the farmers and say, well, you're earning X dollars, we want it. There's no difference between that situation and the central appraisal districts and the school districts. They're one and the same. The governments have gone socialist. They're literally squeezing every dollar out. And while you, the poor peon, me, the poor peon, me, the person that's got tenants, and I have a responsibility to make sure they stay in business, every single person is getting squeezed by this nonsense.
You said a lot of things that I didn't know you were going to say, and I'm glad that you said it. I wanted to make a point real quick, especially going off of what you just said. These other countries appear to be ahead of us because they're protesting and they're ramming down barriers. Where are you at, America? Why aren't you standing up? Stand up. But also interesting what you just said, and I hope you guys got it. The seed companies, the farmers need seeds to plant. Those seed companies have basically created a monopoly. And anytime, or a lot of times, a farmer, like right when they're going bankrupt, and this is probably why you don't see it in the stats, these same seed companies, kind of like Zillow to realtors, come in and just buy the property from their own clients. So they're raising prices, suffocating the farmers, having them go bankrupt, and then going around to buy their land. To me, that's un-American. And speaking of un-American, let's talk about what's happening here in America by listening to a really great breakdown from a farmer that's going to explain what he's going through.
Just say I was at all soybeans and $150 an acre loss. You're looking at $450,000 of loss for just doing my job. I'm paying an additional $450,000 instead of making anything. I've never seen a crisis like this without intervention. We're talking about generational loss of farmers.
In the last year, farm bankruptcies here in Arkansas have nearly doubled. The story in the media is that's because of Trump's trade war with China. And now that China has agreed to a deal, the crisis will pass. But that story is wrong.
The tariffs are a problem, but think of it as being in a coffin, and we're going to nail the lid shut. The tariffs are the final nail.
Scott Brown is a row crop farmer who grows corn, rice, and soybeans.
I want to know what the price of soybeans is, how much we've exported this week.
The price of soybeans hit a high of $17 a bushel 3 years ago, but this year it's down to $10. That means many farmers will operate at a loss, but not just for soybeans.
So for cotton, soy, corn, and rice, the average loss per acre is $150 to $350 per acre.
Adam Chappell farms 2,400 acres about 2 hours from Scott. In September, Adam and Scott attended a meeting called for farmers to speak to their federal representatives.
Hundreds of farmers from across the state came to voice their concerns about the current state of farming.
It was a three-day notice on this meeting. We went from having 15 to 20 people to over 500.
We were in the start of harvest for 500 farmers to get off the combines and go stand in a meeting is a big deal.
It was like a funeral in there. This is generations of farms teetering on the brink.
I'm in the worst shape right now that I've ever been in.
5 of my customers have committed suicide. That's how serious that piece is.
Now, before going to Mitch to talk to him about the pattern and practice, I wanted to update you guys on who the top 5 largest farmland owners are. Pretty disgusting. Now, obviously, Bill Gates is number 1. He's the founder of Microsoft. He's not even a farmer. Number 2 is Stuart and Linda Resnick. And that appears to be the only generational farmer on this list. They're out of California. They got about, according to this, 180,000 acres. But then it gets back to business at number 3, which is John Malone, who's number 3 owner, who's a media executive. And number 4, another one, Ted Turner, media entrepreneur and founder of CNN. Why do these guys own so much land? Number 5, Stan Kroenke, who's also a businessman and sports team owner. So 1 out of the 5 actually has farming experience. The other people, maybe they're doing it for power because we already know they don't need money. Mitch, is the same debt and debauchery happening here that we just witnessed that's happening across the world? Is this a pattern and practice? Is it the same thing?
Absolutely. The pattern and practice is clear. And that's why I kept saying before that the Federal Reserve has exported its garbage across the globe. And if you look at anything that touches uniform standards of professional appraisal practice, it too is now exported garbage across the globe. Not that the document is bad, not that the theory is bad. The people that claim to use it don't use it. The people that claim, i.e. the Attorney General for the state of Texas, to adhere to the law do not. We've already got all this evidenced. Well, isn't it interesting that with regard to the farmers, Brooke Rollins is the Secretary of Agriculture. There were 500 farmers in that room. Can you imagine what property owners would be capable of to get 500 farmers in a room that are all complaining about the exact same thing? Now, they didn't articulate all 5 problems, but the net result is the fact that they're going bankrupt. The net result is that several of them have committed suicide. Well, Brooke Rollins works for this administration. She's an attorney. I'm most certain she knows of these problems. You can't go anywhere and miss it. But the problem is the politicians. When they say, well, we're doing this and we're doing that, only to placate the public and not solve the problem. I can't be any more specific. The problem is debt. This is what you have allowed to occur. You've done this in favor of the banks. You're breaking the farmers. What are you going to do? Make your population starve? Like, this does not end well unless somebody stands up and says, we've got a serious problem. The past experiments didn't work. Governor Abbott's legacy will be that of overseeing the destruction of the school system in the state of Texas. They refuse to get involved and fix the bond problem. The pink elephant dancing in the room continues to dance. The best way I can explain it, they're fiddling while Rome is burning. That's the reality. Brooke Rollins is a smart person, but sooner or later, no politician wants to see 500 angry people coming their way. That is what is happening. You're seeing this play out now. Why are you, the politicians, inviting trouble? Knock it off. This is savable. Every one of these circumstances is fixable. Peel back this debt. We've had that in the history of the United States several times. It's called a debt jubilee. Go read about it. Figure it out. Sit down with some serious people in a room that know what they're doing and fix this before it gets out of hand. And I'm telling you, it's getting out of hand. Those tractors, you don't have enough tanks to offset those tractors. That's hundreds of thousands of tractors. What are you going to do? Water cannons don't work. Road stops don't work.
We saw what they did there. They opened up the barricade.
Of course.
They removed the barricade.
These farmers don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
But the reality is they've got a right to make a living. And by the way, the American people have a right to eat. Brooke, you know better. Do something. You're the person in charge. Fix it.
Fix it. I hope they do. because we need it. And why wouldn't they, Mitch? Unless for corruption, greed, and a sickness of the human heart. Which brings me to our last segment. Let's talk about what's going on with the #1 beef supplier in the U.S., Tyson. Let's look at the fact that they're closing down facilities, closing down plants, and laying off their employees. Coming out just in time for the holidays, Tyson eliminates 3,200 jobs with closure of Nebraska beef plant. Also a few days ago, Tyson Foods to lay off nearly 2,000 Texas workers amid cattle shortage. So we got plant closures and multiple states with layoffs from Tyson. It's not just Nebraska. Comment below if you knew that, because personally, I didn't realize that. I thought it was all centralized in Nebraska, but it's not. It's happening everywhere. I thought it would be best to listen to a farmer in the streets, or rather in the field, and what her opinion is about what's happening with Tyson and their plant closures.
And shutting down a plant isn't an accident. It's what happens when 4 corporations run America's entire meat supply like a cartel. This isn't market conditions, it's corruption, and it's bought and paid for influence. It's decades of political donations and lobby money letting the big 4 do whatever the hell they want. And when they close a plant, ranchers get crushed, and consumers pay more, and communities collapse. And the monopoly gets even tighter. This is the game. Choke out competition, shrink processing options, and force the entire country to rely on a handful of companies, some of which aren't even American owned. This is why I built the American Rancher Alliance, because if we don't break this cartel now, they're going to own every ounce of food you eat.
And in other news, Campbell is apparently using chicken that's 3D printed.
It's barely anymore. It's not healthy. Now that I know what the in it, I can eat bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer.
Ooh, the recording is allegedly from a conversation that is now part of a lawsuit filed by a cybersecurity analyst for Campbell's. The analyst claims he was fired after reporting the alleged remarks, which he also says that included racist comments about employees. Campbell says the comments about its food are inaccurate and do not reflect the company's values or culture.
Mitch, can you please explain now how, again, this all connects to the viewers that have been watching this. We always say this connects. People are like, why are you always talking about property taxes? Because it's such a big deal. Can you explain, Mitch, how abolishing, repealing, ending property taxes can not only help mom and pop and small businesses, but can also literally save the entire farming industry? How's that possible? How could ending, abolishing, and repealing property taxes end this farming catastrophe?
When you study business models, such as I have for my entire career, you see patterns in practice. And in this video, we articulated those pattern and practices between the farmers themselves, but it also comes down to the exact same pattern and practice of fraud being committed by the school districts and the central appraisal districts, which collect and overcharge for the money. Well, mom and pop end up spending roughly 8.6% of their gross income on real estate tax. It's not the 2% that you think you're paying. It's the 8.6% that you are paying. That's part of the delusion that they want you to believe. Well, it's only 2% and then we're doing this for the children. Neither one of those statements are true. That's delusion. It's a lie. They want you to believe it, but it is a lie. The truth is 8.6% on average across the United States. Now, let's apply that to the farmers that we already know, as testimony was given here this afternoon, that they're losing $150 to $350 per acre. What 8.6% of gross income? You see the problem? Again, there is a fix for this. With regard to the shortage of cattle and that lady from the Farmers Alliance, all I have to say as far as she is concerned is amen. You just heard it straight, pun intended, from the horse's mouth. This is what these farmers need to do. They need their own alliance. Coincidentally, what have we been calling for from mom and pop? We've been calling for your activism. You're going to have to get involved. You can't sit there and do nothing. You're starting to see how these things are truly connected. Who's getting the money? Follow the money. That's how you begin to understand that it's the banks that are collecting the compound cumulative interest on these bonds. You think these companies, these seed companies aren't public? They're public. They go out, they raise bond money. When they start violating competition laws, that's when things get interesting. That's what the politicians are there for. They're there to stop it. That's what the judges, the courts are supposed to be there for. They're there to stop it. If the politicians and the judges don't, then people de facto end up with the ultimate clause, which is taxation without representation. These politicians are inviting trouble. And I want to go back just for 1 second. Why do we have a shortage in cattle? Well, the Biden administration and the idiots in that administration didn't like the fact that cows fart. That's what this was about, carbon dioxide. So when you realize how stupid this is, the politicians that exist today that claim, well, we're here because we're capitalists and we believe in the capitalist society, which is what America was based on as a republic, except for one thing. What team are you playing for? Are you playing for the socialist team? Or are you playing for the capitalist team? Because you, people who are in charge of this, better figure out real quick which side of the table you're playing for. These problems can't go on. You can't starve the farmers. You can't starve Americans. Frankly, you can't starve people anywhere on the planet. But this is what you're attempting to do. The idea that you can sit there and think, well, we're not going to get caught. Like hell you're not. You've already been caught. The only question is, what are the ramifications of you being caught? What are the ramifications of these central appraisal districts being caught in a massive conspiracy to defraud? You can't hide these facts anymore. We've published them. You can't hide from 3.4 million farmers. Good luck with that. The point of the matter is, instead of, well, we don't know about this, we don't know about that, we don't want, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Here's an idea. Simply tell the truth. There is a solution to this stuff. It's not that complex. It has to do with the debt. You can peel back the debt. You can have a debt jubilee. People that owe money on their student loans that can never be paid off, don't have to bankrupt them. It's called a debt jubilee. Sit down, put a floor and a ceiling on these problems at the school district level, the school district bonds, et cetera. They are solvable. You don't have to hide. You politicians that are choosing to hide are dead nuts wrong. You're inviting trouble that doesn't need to exist.
And I want to reiterate a few things that you said. We'll get the audience out of here. But there's a reason why we have a constitution. There were wars fought and people died so that we had rights today. One of those rights was the 16th Amendment to the Constitution, which forbidded the government from taxation on our shelters. They could only tax our income. The roof over my head is not making me money. I'm losing money. I can't even afford to buy another house right now. Most people cannot afford to buy another house right now. We already have the laws in place in the Constitution. And also, you guys, think about what he just said. Think about what abolishing property taxes really does. It saves farmers. If you abolish property taxes for small businesses can thrive again. They can lower their prices. If you remove property taxes for grocery stores, guess what happens to the food? It deflates. If you remove property taxes not only for homesteads and primary residence, but if you do it for non-owner occupied properties, what happens to rent? Rent also goes down. This entire system is set up to violate our rights. We already have the laws. Think about this, guys. Think about it. I hear all kinds of, oh, this is just going to help the boomers. No. This helps us all. Our forefathers have already fought and died to prove to us, the young kids on the block that are foolish, that the government is going to take what we give them. And unless we unify, unless we are active in our unification, they're just going to keep taking. So here's how I want to end. Go to our websites, go to Mitch's websites, sign the petition, equip yourself with the knowledge, go to my website, go to the videos, stand by for updates on the class action lawsuit, stand by for updates on the advocacy. And remember this, you guys, one of the most important things is make sure your mindset is solid. Make sure you're loving some people. Do not walk away from someone and help. Love some people, love yourself. Stay hopeful, understand you're important. And other than that, guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, your life, whatever it is, you guys already know we wish you luck and we hope you win.